Okay, it should be active. So last time we were talking about strings, and I've got my little strings app here that we created. We were talking about strings, and we said that strings are immutable. And if you remember, that means that if I have this string A here, and I set it equal to this string, all that variable knows is that memory location. If I change the value of A to a new string, only that memory location changes, so that old string is still in memory. So I think at the end of class, if we have time, we will try to take this strings app that we've created and see if we can't put some sort of loop in it, execute some sort of string update a couple 100,000 times, and see if we can see the machine taking a performance hit from that. We'll try it. But first, we need to look at StringBuilder. We'll create a small StringBuilder app, kind of like this one, maybe, if the internet cooperates with me here. So I'm actually starting on page 428, talking about the StringBuilder class. Turn on the projector. It's trying to come on. Glad we got the Zoom thing because the projector is not looking very good. It's hard to see. There it is. You guys could see it already, I know, but I still like waiting for the projector. So I want to create a new project. I'm going to close that tab so that I don't have any leftovers confusing me. And I'm going to create a new project. And this one, instead of strings app 1, I'm going to make it StringBuilder app 1. Here where I've got my create main class, I'm going to tell it to name my main class main. And today we'll also look at those packages just a little bit so we can see how that's working behind the scenes and quit ignoring it. So here I go. Now I want to start out with some comments. So our program here is going to be our StringBuilder app. I've done something to it where it's not doing the asterisks on its own. That's okay, I can handle that. You are the developer. We could put from Maroc. So we're using some Maroc code today. Now our date, 11/15. Yeah, it's almost Thanksgiving, huh? And our purpose here is we're going to use the StringBuilder. I want to put a comment here at the top. I guess I'll leave my author thing that says StringBuilder strings are mutable. And that just means they're updatable. So instead of taking up additional memory when we change the value of the string, it'll just change the value of the string like we would assume things work anyways. Now, when we use StringBuilder, StringBuilder is a Java class. So the StringBuilder class takes care of handling string manipulation for us. The string class does a lot of that too. We saw last time we can use it just the generic string class. So a StringBuilder object just takes it a little bit further. Now, when we create a new StringBuilder object occurrence, we're going to use a StringBuilder constructor. In StringBuilder, the StringBuilder class has 3 different constructors. First of all, we can use a StringBuilder constructor that doesn't require any parameters. That's going to create an empty StringBuilder object with an initial capacity of 16 characters. So it's just going to allocate some blank space in memory. We could also construct our StringBuilder object by passing in a parameter that's the number of characters we want to have allocated. So if our string is going to be 256 characters, we could specify that as a capacity when we start that StringBuilder, when we construct it. So that would be a numeric parameter passing to the StringBuilder. Now, if we pass a string parameter to StringBuilder, it's going to go ahead and allocate however much space it needs to hold that actual string that we used as part of our constructor. So either way, we'll get something allocated for us to use some strings. We saw last time that the string class itself had some methods we could use, like substring and pad and trim and those kinds of methods. A lot of those methods exist for the StringBuilder class too, and some of the most important ones are append, capacity, and length. So they've got some little sample code here, so we're going to try some of that in our main. So I guess for our main, we've got to start some code. For our first one, let's create a method that's going to allocate a StringBuilder object. So I want this to be a static method, and it's going to be void, and it's just going to be a credit card number. So I'll put that in as our method name. Now, in our CC number method, we're going to create a StringBuilder object. So we're going to use the StringBuilder class. I can type today. Doesn't see that as a class. Do we need some sort of import? Looks like it, doesn't it? Now, we could mouse over and see what our error is. It says you don't have a semicolon yet. So that's not very helpful. So let me continue entering that line of code. Let's say our StringBuilder object is going to be called CC number. Sorry, I went down a little bit. And we're going to set it equal to a new StringBuilder object. We're going to use that default parameter with no parameter for constructor. So now everything looks good. Is it recognizing that StringBuilder is a class? It looks like it is. They say that the StringBuilder class is in, I'm going to add this to our comments, java.lang.StringBuilder. So just like our string class, we're able to access that based on our default imports. Now we've got our new StringBuilder object here. It's empty. And it's been allocated as 16 characters. I'm going to put a comment over there. 16 character StringBuilder object. Now we want to put some strings, some data into this string builder object. So we can specify the object name, CC number, and then we can use the append method. Now the append method, if you look, has a lot of overloads. If you think about our object-oriented programming here, append has all these different overloads. We could pass it a long, an integer, a float, a double, an array of characters, one character, a Boolean, a string buffer object, which is very similar to a string builder object. So all of those different data types have different methods defined in the string builder class so that we can append using all of those different data types. Just object orientation that adds more flexibility, those overloads. Now what we want to append is that credit card number. So we're going to start with the first 4 digits of 4012. Now we really could append all 16 digits all at once, but we're going to keep it at 4 because that's how we were handling things last time with this credit card number. Now our second parameter is 8888, all our 8s. Then we're going to append even more. This time, 4 more 8s. And then our last 4 digits were 1881. Perfect. So now we've got that credit card number all set up the way we want it. Now, whenever we created this object, it was 16 characters. So we added 4, 8, 12, 16 characters to it. So should it be that same size? Let's check. I'm just going to add a print statement. And what I want to output is size after appends. And then we're going to add we have 2 fields that we could use. So let's change this from saying size after append to capacity. And then we'll use CC number dot capacity. I do want to try the other variable though. So I'm going to copy that. And then instead of capacity for this one, we want length. And we'll see if they are the same as we would think that they would be. See, if that thing was really originally allocated with 16 characters or 16 spots, if we use 16 spots, that should be our capacity and our length. Now I want to make this testable, so I'm going to change my main to call my CC number method. That should be enough. We should be able to try it. And that looks good. So sure enough, our capacity is 16 and our length is 16. I'd like to copy those 2 lines of code. I'm thinking they're kind of handy. And put those right after we allocate that string builder object. So we can see how things are changing. So I want to run that. Because this first time we print out this information, our capacity should be 16, but our length should be 0. So I'm going to change these words to say before. capacity before appends and length before appends. So we can do some troubleshooting there and see what we've got. Great. Try it. So sure enough, when it was allocated, it was set to be 16 spots, but no spots were used. After we appended our credit card number, we have 16 capacity and 16 in our length. So perfect, it's working the way we think it should. So that's great for our credit card number. We'll come back to that one here in a minute, but let's jump off now and look at how we can make our capacity automatically increase. I'm going to create another method. This one is going to be an object that we're going to call name, and we're going to be increasing the size of the name. So let's call this capacity increase. That's really what we want here, what we're going to be looking at. Now we're going to create a StringBuilder object again, and it's going to be named name. This StringBuilder object, we're going to send in a capacity of 8 in our constructor. So I'm going to copy our print statements because, like I said, they're pretty handy. Let's copy those and paste them. Now I have to change to use our name StringBuilder variable instead of CC number. But that looks good. Now we want to do some updates to our StringBuilder name. We're going to append a user's name into that StringBuilder object. So it's going to be Raymond R. Thomas. And you could use any name, but we want it to be longer than our 8 characters because we want to see how the size gets increased. Now his name is not going to fit in that StringBuilder object we created because it's only got room for 8 characters. So our StringBuilder object is going to be automatically extended. It'll be bigger than. Let's see, somewhere in here they say, I keep losing my internet connection and it won't let me see, so I'm going blank on you. I'm going to have to bring a real book. Yes, sir? Sure. We didn't change any. Okay, it's sort of back. It's going to let me see a little bit. It's not everything I want to. Okay, so we're going to add this name. It is larger than our object size, our capacity. Let me press tab. What is wrong? There, it's going to let me press tab. Just a little crazy. Okay, so a larger string than our capacity. So our StringBuilder object is going to have to be extended. We saw that when we were using the regular string class, we could use the plus equal operator, and that would basically append data to our string. But remember, we're going to have that immutable problem where really when we append, we're creating a brand new string. In StringBuilder, we're not doing that. So we're going to start this with a capacity of 8. The second statement, where we've got this name, is going to add a string of 17 characters. Now that's going to exceed the string builder object, so Java is going to automatically increase the capacity by doubling the current capacity and adding 2. So let's put that in there. Double current capacity plus 2. And then we'll run our code and make sure that's exactly what happens. Let's print it out. I'm going to make it say capacity after. So if we say that our current capacity is 8, and we double that, that would give us 16, plus 2 would be 18. So his name would fit in that 18 characters. I want to change our main. Instead of running the CC number method, I want to run the capacity increase method. There we go. So let's try it. So we should end up with that 18 is our capacity and 17 as the length of the string our string builder contains. And we did end up with that. So great, it's working. Let's add some more. That's the end of their little example. Let's say that we just found out he was a third. So he wants at the end of his name the III, because he's a third. It's a big deal to be a third, so they like that to be acknowledged. Now, when we do that, how much is going to be added? Is it going to double the current size? Our current size is 18, so that would make us 36 plus 2, 38, which is much bigger than what we need. Let's check. And I'm going to say this is append 2. Yep, so it doubled it and added 2. So now we're looking at a capacity of 38 with an actual length of 21. So depending on how our strings fall, you know, String Builder might be pretty efficient. We might have some extra space that's not being used, different things. But if I started out with a string size of something pretty big, let's make a third one and we'll use that other constructor and tell it it's a huge string and then add some things to it. I want one more method here. We'll call it huge string. And we're going to create a string builder that is huge. And let's make it like, I don't know, what's huge? 1024. We'll make it a kilobyte. And I want to print that information out. We should have some capacity there with no length. Use my huge string builder object here. And then I want to change my main to run this method. Now, in order to really test things, let's go ahead and append something. And We're going to have to get it really, really full to do that. So I don't think that's going to be a very good idea. I'll delete that line of code and we'll just run it this way and see how it comes out as 1024 when we use that parameter. Sure enough, it's 1024 characters, but 0 length within the string builder. So we could end up making our string builder really inefficient, but in general, it's much more efficient than using regular string manipulation. Now, let's do a little bit more with some of our examples here. With our credit card number, remember we had to put in the dashes in that string. We're going to go back to it. So I'm going to comment out our huge string method and uncomment our CC number. And let's go change it a little bit. So in our CC number, we saw that if we allocated the empty string builder, added our numbers to it, it didn't need any sort of expansion because it started at 16. We added 16 characters to it. So now let's go through and add our hyphens in between those numbers, every 4 digit. We're going to use a different method than that available to the actual string class. We're going to use insert. Insert requires 2 parameters. First, the location to begin. We want our hyphen to be after or at position 4, starting counting at 0, remember. And what we want to insert there is the hyphen. Now, as soon as we insert that hyphen, our string is now 17 characters, right? Because we just added a character to our string. So for our next hyphen, we can't put it starting at position 8. We have to go to position 9. And again, we want to insert a hyphen. So now our string is 18 characters. We have one more to insert because we wanted a hyphen between each 4 digits. So this one would have originally been 4, 8, 12, but now it's 13, 14 because we added those 2 new digits into that number. So whenever we add that first hyphen, our string builder is going to go through that expansion process of doubling the current size and adding 2. So that's going to make it 34 characters long. So the other 2 hyphens won't require any sort of expansion of our string builder object because it'll already be long enough to handle them. So let's put in our debugging code. Make sure that our assumptions are valid here. And I'm going to make that be capacity after inserts. And we should be able to run it. So let's think about it before we run it. If we're looking at 16 doubled to 32, we think it should be 34. And our used length should be 19. And they're 34 and 19. So notice how that's working out. And looking at your code, it's not much different than what we were doing with the actual string, is it? It's real similar. Sometimes it is almost confusing that it's so similar, you know. What is this? Why does it look a little different? Another class in Java that's very similar is that string buffer class. And the string buffer class is just exactly like the string builder class. In general, uses the same methods and parameters, but they say in our text that string buffer is thread aware. So that means if we were multi-threading or doing multi-processing, we would have to use the string buffer class instead of the string builder. Other than that, they say the string builder is just a little bit more efficient. And string buffer is older. Okay, so now we put those dashes in. What kind of code does it take for us to remove those dashes? I'll put a comment above that. Add dashes using string builder. And then remove the dashes using string builder. Now, in order to remove the dashes, it's actually a little bit more complicated than it was with our string class. We're going to have to use a loop and get rid of the characters that are the dashes. So they've got some sample code here for us. Let's type it in, and then we'll take a look and see what it does. We'll dissect it. So we're going to start out this loop with an integer named I, initialized to 0. And we want to run while I is less than our CC number length. Remember, if we did capacity, we could end up with some null or unallocated characters and have some unpredictable results. So we want to use the length parameter, not the capacity. We're going to add to I for each execution of our loop. Now, within our loop, we're going to look at the character at this position pointed to by our I variable. So if cc number.char at position I is equal to that hyphen, we want to delete it. So we're going to use the delete method, which is way different than any of the things we saw in our string class. So we want to use delete char at position I. So we have our credit card number. And when we start out here at position 0, we're checking, is that a hyphen? No. When we get over here to the first hyphen, 0, 1, 2, 3, we'll be at position 4. We should match that character at position 4 is equal to the hyphen. So then we're going to delete that character at position 4. When we do that now, this 8 is going to be at position 4. So we have to be aware of that change as we're writing our code to make sure it doesn't cause us any trouble. Because of that, we're going to subtract from I if we did delete that character. So that's going to actually put us back to position 3. We'll continue on with our loop, updating the value of I, and now we'll be checking that character that was after the hyphen to make sure it's not a hyphen also. So that takes care of our for loop. Let's try it. I'll do some labeling here. And of if, and of for. Now, after our for loop, let's print out our information here. Do our debugging. And I'm getting a lot of debugging code in here. This will be kind of messy to clean up. But really, that's all this program is for, is debugging. So we can put as much in as we like. Now, I want to label this appropriately. So I'm going to say capacity after delete. When we delete these characters, we're going to go down in our length from 19 back to 16, right? Because we're going to delete 3 characters, but our capacity is going to stay at 34. Let's make sure that's correct. So yep, once it got bumped up to 34, it stays kind of that way. So great, we see that we could use this for loop to look at each of those characters and see if they're a certain value. Now the other thing that we did with our regular string was split that credit card number into those 4 parts. So let's look at how we would have to do that. And last time we used that substring command, which is super handy. And we can do the same thing with our string builder. We can allocate a string, part 1 equals CC number dot substring starting at 0 for 4 characters, or two position 4. Part 2, our substring. We want to start at 4 and go to position 8. Part 3 of our credit card number. We're going to pull out starting at position 8 up to position 12. And lastly, part 4. We're going to start at 12 and go to the end. Let's output those strings. Part 1 plus a space plus part 2 plus a space, went down there, plus part 3 plus a space, and finally part 4. When we use this substring command, we're not affecting our string builder object at all. We're just extracting some data from it. So our length and capacity and everything would be unchanged after we've gone through this code, because we're just reading it at this point. We're not updating it. So let's run this. Our CC number section should be pretty well done. We've looked at putting it all together, inserting special data into specific positions, and then extracting it all back out. And there's our strings. Looks good. We've got our different 4-digit strings. So some ways String Builder is easier to use than the string class. Some ways it's harder. I do think it'll be fun for us to try to figure out a way to check our performance and actually see if we can affect and impact memory by creating enough strings. We need to do some looping, create 500,000 strings and then update them and see what happens. We're going to do that later today if we have time. Before we do that, however, we're going to create this product lister application that's in your textbook. Several weeks ago, we worked on the product application that was in the textbook. So we've done a lot of that code. We're going to add a little bit more to it and do a little bit of string manipulation with that application so we can get some more experience. One of the things that we want to do in getting our experience here is use the packages. So let me bring this over. So this is some Oracle documentation, you know, those owners of Java. So they have all the Java tutorials. And Oracle does have tons of training out there. It's all training that as the OTC people have been through, and we feel comfortable using other textbooks, if that tells you anything. But you're welcome to look at it. They've got some great stuff out there and some really dry stuff. So what is a package? They say that creating and using packages are used to avoid naming conflicts and to control access. That's an interesting way of putting it. So the definition here, a package is a grouping of related types providing access protection and namespace management. So our types they're talking about could be classes or enums or all sorts of different objects that we may not have learned about yet. So types are often referred to just as classes and interfaces because they basically mean everything. So whenever we create any source code in a Java project, we can actually assign it to a specific package. And in effect, that puts that source code into a separate folder under our source code folder in our Java project. So we could actually allow certain users to access one package within our application and other users to access a different package. So let's use that with our application here and see if we can build this. I want to create a new project. I'm going to close out of my main tab here and start a new one. We haven't really had a lot of applications that we've created with NetBeans because of REPL and all these different places we've been putting our source code. So we haven't come up with a great naming standard, but I think it would be nice. What chapter is this? All I get is section 3. Chapter 13. I'm going to put that for the name. Chapter 13. Product lister. And I'm going to show you this project in the student download folder because that's one of those things that you can download from their website. So in the student downloads folder, they have several different folders, and some of these are like creating entities that you need. Some of them are starting points of projects or completed projects. So if it's a project that was created in Eclipse, it's in the Eclipse folder. If you want to do it in NetBeans, it's in the NetBeans folder. So I'm going to look at the NetBeans folder, and it's a book app. So I want to go down to chapter 13, and I'm going to show you how their source code is contained within their source folder. When I look at the source folder, instead of seeing my source code, my .java files right away, I see Murroc is the folder name. That's the package name that's been assigned. So let's try to use that same package name in our project. So whenever we have this checkbox, create main class, we're telling it to create a package for us and our main class. Let's just uncheck that completely and handle it ourselves so that we don't run into any weird problems. I'm going to click finish with nothing checked there. Now, if I look at my source code in my new project, it has no .java files and it has a default package. We would like to have a package named Murroc. So let's right click on source packages and choose new Java package. We'll name it Murroc, just like they did. That's all we need is to give it a name. And we'll click finish. So it changed our default package to Murroc. If you notice, it didn't leave the default package there. It just changed its name. So that's good. Now, when we're working with applications, there's a lot of great things that come from separation of code. We saw with our object-oriented programming approach that we could create different classes and we could assign those to different programmers. We also can have different security levels. Some users can work with some classes and some can't. So there's a lot of great things that we can do. Along those lines, we like to separate our applications into 3 tiers. I before E. So the 3-tier model. And the 3-tier model says we would like code separation. We would like client UI code to be in one area, because this code, this client code, is something that could potentially run on a client machine. It could be HTML, it could be Java, XAML files that we work with Java 2 that are GUI. But whatever is in this user interface tier is stuff that could be pushed down to a client's machine. Then the middle tier, we call that our business logic. And in this tier, we would normally have our class code, like that product class that we created, maybe even any other class that goes along with that, we would put in our business tier. And this is stuff that's going to be maintained on the server. So our thoughts are that our business tier code gets maintained on the server, stays on the server, never gets pushed down to the client machine. That's a security risk, right? Anything that I push to a client machine could potentially be grabbed or absconded with or interfered with by that user. Keeping it on our server and not pushing it down to their machine, now it's safe, secure, no problem. Our third tier is our database, or our data tier. And what we would see in the real world is this database stuff is running on a database server, the business logic is running on an application server, and the client user interface stuff is running on the client machine. By separating things that way, if my database is getting hit really hard and requires more resources, more disk space, more memory, it can just be added to that machine. My business server doesn't need to be upgraded. It's fine. It's handling all of its work just fine. If, on the other hand, my database server is fine, but my business server is just having way too much action, it's super busy, slowing things down, needs more RAM, I can upgrade that server. So by separating our code out into these different functions, these different tiers, we're basically separating out their responsibilities, which in effect gives us just a built-in layer of security. It's kind of like if I have a server and I put it in the entryway of my company, that's not a very good location, right? Every person that walks by could potentially turn off that server or do something to it because it does not have physical security. But if I move it into some server room that's all locked up and everything, now it's in a better place. It's the same way with a 3-tier model, is that we're going to split up the information and put it in the place that it wants to be. So we're going to use these 3 tiers as package names for our application here. So besides our Muroc package, we want to create 3 packages underneath that. So we want to choose new again, Java package. And let's create UI. So it's going to be Muroc.ui. I'm going to finish that. And then I'm going to add another one. New Java package. And this one is going to be Muroc.business. See if I don't mess it up. Type it. Finish. And lastly, new Java package, our DB. So this will be Murat.db. So this is kind of like creating a folder structure for your application before you start working with your code. So now we've kind of declared we have these 3 different packages, and we're going to put source code in each of them, but we're only going to put the right source code in the right package. So there's a couple that I want to send to you through the chat so that we don't have to create them from scratch. This one. So let me see if I can do that. Okay, open the chat, and you should have that product.java. Now that's going to go in our business function. So what's the easiest way to get it? There's so many different ways. Let me see. We could, if I just double click on it, it's doing weird things to me. It's showing me where I got it from, which is not what it's going to do to you. So let me select it. Is it going to let you guys download it? Because I think it's doing different to me. What we want to do, I'll try to get this way, is in our business package, we want to create our new class, new Java class called product. If you were able to save that file somewhere, you could right-click and say New, Other, and eventually you could go find that file and import it into your project. With NetBeans, it can get really, really ugly. So for me, I like to just create that Java class. Notice it's completely empty. And then I'm going to take that one that I sent you, and I'm going to try to edit it in Notepad++. Or break my machine is what I'm doing. Getting mad at me for using all this memory. And I'm going to copy it and paste it. Like I said, lots of different ways we can do that. If you find a great way, let me know, and we'll all switch to that. So here's the code that they've kind of given us for this product class. It is the one that we worked on when we were working with our object-oriented programming. If we look through this class, we've got 3 class fields, code description and price. Our constructor sets all of those to default values of empty and zeros. We have another constructor that expects parameters for all of those and updates each of the class fields appropriately. We have setters and getters for our code, our description, and our price. And then we have a getter to get our price in a formatted way. So that's our product class. It's pretty similar to the one we created way back several weeks ago. Pretty similar. But I didn't want to go back to that one we had because we would have had some differences and some people would have been missing it. So it's just easier for us to get the one from them. Now, the next thing is the DB. So I want to create another class, and I'm going to send it to you. This one is product DB. So it is going to go in the DB package, the database. So on our Murat.db package, I'm going to right-click, say New Java Class. This is going to be Product DB. And we want to put that code in there. What's weird is with their weird database code where they kind of created this to generate test data, once we put it in its own package, it kind of makes more sense. Because now we can see, oh yeah, it's pretending to be the database. And it's kind of loading up our data. So those are the ones that you get given. Now, everything that goes in our user interface package, we're going to create ourselves. Here's what our application is going to look like when we're all done. Let me get it over here. It's going to ask for a product code, and it'll be in a loop asking for product codes until we enter an N that we don't want anymore. And then all of the product codes that were entered, a 3-column list will be generated to display all of the data from those product codes that were entered. So we'll be creating the code to output all of these strings. So I'm going to be focusing on that. So the first thing that we need in our UI, our user interface package, is a new class called StringUtil. So let's create that. Right-click, New Java Class, StringUtil. Now our string utility class here that we're creating is going to do the padding, adding spaces to get all of our display in this nice columnar format. Now you guys know that we could use that format, the string.format, to format our output in a certain number of columns. But if you remember, we had to go outside of our Murdoch book to find that information. So here they are creating some awesome methods for us to do that. Always fine to recreate the wheel if you have time. So in our class, we're only going to have one method called pad. It's going to be a public method. It is going to be static. We only want one instance of it loaded in memory. We're going to return a string from this method, and our method name is pad. We want some parameters for this. So our padding method needs to know what is the string S that you want to pad, and what length do you want it to be padded to. So we're going to start out with an if statement and check the length of our string. If it's less than the length they passed, everything's good. If it's not, we got a problem, right? Now, the first thing we're going to do, because our length is less than the length that we want, we're going to add spaces to the end until the string is the specified length. So StringBuilder. We're going to call this StringBuilder object SB, which is a really common name for StringBuilder objects. And we're going to say this new StringBuilder should be allocated based on the length of S is a string. Now, while our StringBuilder length is less than that length that was passed in, we're going to append spaces. And then when we get done with our while loop, we're going to return our string builder object, but we're going to convert it to a string to be sent back. Because notice our return parameter is a string, not a string builder data type. Now I'm going to continue on here. We're going to have an else clause that matches our if. And in our else, we're going to say, well, that string is too long. We must need to truncate it. My else didn't go back far enough. Let me fix that. There we go. I'm missing a closing curly brace. Yay. So now we're going to truncate that string. And truncate means to cut off, right? Just like if we truncate the decimal portion when we're converting a double to an integer, we truncate it. So we want to truncate this string to be the length that it's supposed to be. So we're going to return s dot substring, our variable that was passed to us. We're going to say return that substring starting at position 0, ending at the position specified by our length parameter. I got some extra curly brace closings here. Clean those up. So let's see, here's the end of our if, end of our else, and end of our method. Whenever this string builder object is allocated, do you see a problem? That's your problem. This is the code from the book, but I think they made a mistake. What do you think? Where is there an area that could be better? Let me tell you, can you find it? You guys can find it. When we allocate that string builder object, what are we saying to use as the determination of the size? The string. Could we use the length? Or would that not work? If we use the length to allocate our string builder object, and then we put that, we appended the string s to it, I guess we could end up with a double the size if they were wanting to truncate that string. There's a lot of different ways we could look at this one. So always remember when you're looking at these code samples, your way might be better. That's okay. Oftentimes it is. But we'll go with yours. It looks good. Everything's fine. What I would do, just because of me, is I would say if s.length is greater than or equal to the length they want, just return that substring and then allocate the string builder object as the length they wanted it. put in our string, and then add the spaces to it. So we could go either way. It's totally fine. We're just always trying to think about better performance, better ways of doing things. Okay, now we've got this class built, our little string utility class. We're going to use that in this next class that we're going to create. So this class is going to go in our UI package also. So let's create a new Java class, and this one is going to be Product Lister App. Now notice our package statement up here at the top. Whenever we have different .java files in a package, they always have to have a matching package name. So our new class, Product Lister App, says the package is Muroc.ui. If we look at our string util class, it says its package is Muroc.ui. If we have a problem with that package name, if you guys remember from the beginning of the semester, things won't compile right. So now we went from no packages to 4, and we're going to make sure we have everything in the right place here. But it all looks good. So our Product Lister App is going to need some import statements. We would like it to know about our Muroc.db product DB class, and we would also like it to have access to our business package product class. When we did this earlier in the semester and we had these different classes, we didn't have to import them. We have to now because they're in different packages. So if we put all these .java files in the same package, we would not need these import statements. So we're going to say import the classes that are in different packages. Now we didn't do that in our little string util class. It doesn't need to access those other classes. So it didn't need those import statements. Just this one. Now our product lister is going to be our main. So public static void main string args. In this app, the first thing we're going to do is print out a welcome message. Welcome to the product lister. And then they put \n, so they want a couple of blank spaces. Now in our lister app, we have some final variables. You remember those are the kind that cannot change. We want a final integer named code width, and we're going to say that's 10. We want a final integer named description, underscore width, and it's going to be 34, and then we want price, and it's going to be 10. We're going to set up our display string, or our headings, kind of how we want things formatted. So let's create a StringBuilder object called list. We're going to leave it with no parameter, so it'll set it to 16 is the size. Now in our string builder, we want to add some things. So we're going to do list.append. Now the first thing that we want to put into our string builder object is going to be the word code is our heading. So what we're doing right here is creating that heading line that was going to display. So in order to get the code to be the right length, we're going to use our string util class add method. We're going to pass it the word code and then code width. Now we want to do the same thing. List.append. We're going to use our string util class to pad. And this time we're looking at description. And we do want description width. In the IntelliSense editor guessed what I wanted correctly. Then our last list.append, we're going to use our string util.pad. Whoops. I am just messing it up. And this one, we're going to send price and our price width. So an interesting way of doing things, it's going to take those three literal values, code, description, and price, and add some spaces to them so that they're all the right size. Now we're going to add some more. We're going to build this using our string builder. We're going to append more to our list. And this time, we're going to append quite a bit. So we've gone down a line. I'm going to go over a bit. String util is our class we created. .pad is our method we created. And we want a bunch of equal signs. How many? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, I guess. The same size as our code width. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What I do to make you so mad. Oh, I got rid of it. Closing parenthesis. All right, so that looks great. Now we want to do another one. This time we're going to do 34 equal signs. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is going to be our description width. And finally, our last equal signs that are going to make everything look all pretty. We want 10 of them. And that's going to be our price width again. It's going to do some pretty fancy output here. So now that we have our headings done, we're ready to start each of the lines of output. Remember, we're going to be asking our user for a product code, and if they enter product code, that's the information that we want to output. So before we start with that, we're going to append a new line character to our string builder so that now it's got that line break built in. So now we can process our detail lines. We are going to allocate a string named choice and set it equal to y. That first time they want to put in a product code. Then we're going to start a while loop. And we want to run this while loop while our choice, doing that equals ignore case, is a y. First thing we need to do is get input from the user. We're going to put it into a string called product code. And another way for us to prompt for input, enter product code. Console, we must need some sort of import. Let's see. Yep, we need to import for java.io.console. I'm going to let NetBeans add it for me. And then it doesn't like the get string. I got a typo there. So what can we do? It's looking like it doesn't have that method. Are they giving us some old obsolete code? Let's check. I could do Java console class and look at its Java doc. Remember, whenever we're looking at our Java doc, we can look at the method summary and see all the methods that are in that class. So they're saying we should be able to do console dot string. Should we just have dot string instead of dot get string maybe? Let's try it. I am not sure what they've got there. What do you guys think? Can you fix it? Can we do console.readline? Maybe that'll work for us. Nope, doesn't like any of those.
Why does that look more like C#?
Isn't that weird? I know, it's just so weird because I was like, well, I like that syntax,
Right.
but it's not going to work. Console.getString, we want you to work. Let's search for that. console.getString. We know there are many ways. We would like to try this new one. Okay, here's our console class. Does not work in non-interactive environments, such as in an IDE, which is what NetBeans is. So that's too bad. I wonder what they were doing. They must have just been writing their Java code in Notepad++ and then compiling it. So we can't do that. So we're going to have to allocate a scanner. So let's import our scanner class. And I want these system imports above my imports for our application. What is that thing? Is that java.io.scanner? I haven't done it in a second. Java util.scanner. We'll just use it in our while loop. So let's allocate it before we go into our while loop because we don't want to have a bunch of them. And then we will write a line, enter product code. And our product code will be sc dot next long. We should be able to do next line and hopefully get that whole input. Let's see how that works because we might just be a little bit different than theirs. My NetBeans IDE doesn't like that. It's like, no. That's the first time I've ever run into anything that they say didn't like in an IDE, but console stuff can be that way. Okay, so we've got our product code input finally. So everybody got that code? We want this one to work because we want to be able to step through it in the debugger and all those great things.
So the console won't work in the IDE, but that means that it'll work in the
It should work in Replo.
Yeah.
It doesn't work?
Yeah,
It does? Oh, okay. Well, we should have done it there. But no, we don't want to do this program there. No, that's a good thought that it does work there. Isn't that neat? Can see some changes in things. All right, so now we're back in business here. We've got our product code read in. So we're going to use our product class to create an instance of a product. It's going to be a new product. Oh, they don't want us to instantiate it that way. So we're going to say that product is coming from our product DB class get product method. But that thing needs that product code to see if it can get that product. Now that's in that product DB class that we just copied again because we'd written it quite some time ago. But you could look at that class again and review about what that get product method does. Now we are going to get information back from that get product method. So we're going to add that now to our output. So for our list, we want to append. And I'm going to back tab again, a little crazy here. We're going to use our string utility. And we want to do a pad with it. And what we want to send our pad is that new product instance we just created. We want to get its product code. Use our getter. Now that code is going to be the same as this one that's in our product code variable, but we're going to access our class instance to get its product code instead of using that variable. Now we want that product code to be formatted the width of our codes. Now the next thing for each line of detail that we want to append, we're going to use our string util add method, and this time we're going to use our product that we've created, but we want to get its description. So we use our getter for the description field. Silly thing. Bless you. And we want that to be padded to the width of our descriptions. And finally, string util.pad, we want our product. We're going to get its price in a formatted way, and we want it to be padded to that price width. Now this one is a lot of code for us without being able to test, but we're almost there. These list.append statements, these three, will build each detail line. So anytime we get a new input from our user, a product code, then we're going to create an instance of a product for that and take that data and put it into our string builder. Now after we've appended that line, we're going to add a new line character so that when we print this whole string builder mess out, it's going to know to go to a new line after each product. And we're going to see if the user wants to continue. So our message will be another product, question mark, parenthesis, y/n, close parenthesis, colon, space. And we want to read that answer into our choice variable. And I'm going to do next line because we don't want to leave any leftover garbage there on our line. Phew, that's going to end our while statement. And lastly, we're going to print out our string builder object, our list. And then that should be the end of our method. So do you guys know what's in the news this week in Springfield? What's in the news? My brother-in-law is having to do jury duty this week. And he's working, I think, you know, when you have jury duty, you can't tell people what the case is. But he had to go for jury selection last week for 2 days when they were selecting the jury for that Goldie John murder. You know what I'm talking about? The crazy old lady that they murdered. So I'm thinking my brother-in-law is there today learning more about murder. Yesterday, they said that he got to hear text messages that the two of them had sent to each other back and forth for months and see them on the screen. I'm worried my brother-in-law is going to be way affected. He hasn't said that that's the trial he's on jury for, but it has to be based on when he's gone for jury duty and when he went for selection and everything. So I hope he doesn't have nightmares from hearing. Oh my goodness. Well, and my brother-in-law is super quiet. You know, he's not the kind of guy that is like outspoken about things. So I hope it's okay. All right. So I'd like to run this and test it. Do we have all our pieces? We're not getting any compile errors anywhere. So it sort of looks like we do. I don't even have a run command. So here in my product lister app, since I don't have a start button, my start button is grayed out. I'm going to see if I can get this to work. Because it's got my main method in it, I'm going to right click on that file, and I wanted to choose run file, but nope, it's mad at me. So we're going to have to do something about our configuration here. It's not liking all of these different packages. Let's look at our configuration. Now we could change it using our menus, but it's right here in our toolbar. So I'm just going to click on that arrow key and click Customize. What I need to do then, hopefully, is just tell it where the main class is. So I'm going to choose Browse. And it's like, nope, you've got nothing. I wonder if we're going to have to get rid of all of these packages. I think I ran it. Is yours the same?
No.
Where it won't let you run?
No, mine lets me run it.
Yours lets you run it. Why does yours like you? What are you clicked on?
I'm just click on the product lister app in Meraki.ui and it just lets me run the file.
It does let you run it?
Mm-hmm.
It's mad at me. I'm going to close NetBeans and reopen it. Sometimes got to reboot the NetBeans. You know, when I hadn't saved either, so instead of doing that, I'm going to cancel and choose Save All. Didn't help. So let me close this thing. It's like Windows. Sometimes it needs a reboot. Now it's happy, so I'm going to try to run it. Sometimes NetBeans just gets messed up. Yep, it found my main class now, so I'm going to click OK. And I hope that I see some messages. There they are. Welcome to the product lister. Enter product code. Well, we know we have that Java product code. Another? Sure. Let's see, I'm going to go back and look at what they typed in. Okay, the other one that they did was MySQL. And then they said no. Oh, I've got a bunch of equal signs over here that aren't in the right place. How's yours? I want to see. Get it all perfect. Did it do anything? Well, let me run it. I'm going to see if I can do it. Oh, there you go. That's not really anyways. That's fine here. This is like the only thing that's underlined. I don't know what is. So come up and we need 1 minute. Business. Yeah. I think it was package lowercase. So check your business package. To work.
Stuff missing.
Your stuff missing.
Yeah.
Did you find it in the okay. As long as you can get some stuff there. You got your giant line. Okay, we'll figure out that. That's not a bad problem. Is it? Like this one?
Yeah.
Shopping.
Well, not shopping though. I've been working on it. I can. I'm sorry.
No, no.
And then I got interested. Then I got interested in how to read like their work. Java. There's ways to read it. Strings. I don't know why they need
Open source. It's because open source language, so everybody's always like, my way is better.
Apparently console is the worst way to use it. For Java.
Yeah, that doesn't, oh, it went away.
Oh.
Sometimes it can take a while. I think just cutting and pasting it back, I mean, you guys have exceeded its capabilities.
I'm curious why you use
It makes me.
Okay.
We need to use Visual Studio, but I keep thinking you guys need exposure to different IDEs.
I was wondering why we don't.
Because it's just like, huh?
If I type something,
Yeah, you can use it. Sure, you can use it. I just,
you know how much easier my debugging would be?
I know, it's so much easier. Well, if your debugger will work right,
Fair.
that you might have to install 50 things to get it to work, but try it. The last time I tried it was a while ago, and it wouldn't really do very much with it. It's kind of like Python. You can run Python in Visual Studio. It'll work, but sometimes it won't tell you what your errors are, and it just won't be right. So I don't know if it would be that same way, but they should have. They've come a long way. Did you find me?
I think there's just some things that somehow got it.
Now what?
In the back, they said they had to uppercase. So, did you guys have to make the DB both uppercase to match that package name?
You
So
have to
make the
sure.
case match those packages instead of
Yeah,
what
whatever
it's
the
copying in
package is,
for you.
it's super case sensitive. So it has
Because
to be
it's copying in those lowercase
Well,
package
it
names.
has to be,
yeah.
The
case
exact
has to
match.
be exact
Mhm.
to what you have.
So if
Exact
we
match.
typed in capitals when we
Uh-huh.
made them, but then when we copy pasted the stuff over, they were lowercase. So you have to go back and
Fix that. I see, I see. Everybody's got it. Okay, get out of here. We'll fix this little problem next time. And we're pretty much done with our strings. We'll see if we can explode the machine and get them all working. We'll fix that little part pretty good. I think that's pretty impressive. I like that. That's a really big application for us to create in class.